Hello and welcome to another iTWire video with top Australian executives. Today I have with me Geoff Daly. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Analytica. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex.
So first of all, can you please tell us a bit about Analytica? And it's a medical devices company. We're going to find out about that. And you've got a device which is designed to help women overcome urinary stress incontinence and the Pericoach. So we're going to learn all about that today. But tell us about Analytica, the company behind it all.
Okay, Analytica is a Brisbane-based listed medical device commercialisation company. And as you said, we've just released the Pericoach in Australia and New Zealand. The Pericoach is a device which is designed to manage, monitor and motivate women while they're doing their pelvic floor exercises. Pelvic floor exercises are the frontline treatment for stress urinary incontinence, and the main cause of stress urinary incontinence is the trauma that pelvic floor muscles go through during the childbirth experience. So, and whether or not the woman actually has a canal delivery, if you have a C-section, a cesarean section, you can still get incontinence from the weight of the baby in the third trimester. So, the Pericoach, we had the idea because our company chairman was having a beer with his neighbour actually on the back deck, and the neighbour happened to be an electrical engineer who had come up with the idea. And Dr. Michael Mansour, our chairman, gave me the task of investigating it. Now, doing the business case, the first thing that jumped out at me was the massive size of the market, and it's 1 in 3 women. And if you understand the beginnings of it, the fact that childbirth causes it. You can understand why it's such a massive number. So that was immediately attractive. The second thing that jumped out at us was the existing technology. So it isn't a new device, it isn't a new type of device. It's actually a device which belongs to a category called perineometers. Now this was invented by a guy called Arnold Kegel in the States in the 1940s. And
that's where the name the Kegel exercise comes from.
Yes, you might have seen it on Sex and the City, and I think even Raj said it in
Big Bang Theory.
That's right. So men can do pelvic floor exercises as well.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, Arnold Kegel, what he designed was excellent technology for the 1940s. It was basically a squeezable sac connected by a tube up to a pressure manometer. So the sac was inserted into the vagina. It was squeezed, and it registered a pressure reading on the manometer.
And that pressure manometer was the app interface of the 1940s.
That was the 1940s app.
Yeah.
So what I noticed was that essentially the technology hadn't progressed very far from there, and the incumbent devices were big, they were scary, they were difficult to use. They had consumable devices. They were hard to clean, and they basically were carried around in a briefcase-sized package.
Yeah, not very portable.
Not very user-friendly. So, immediately we saw opportunities there to create a consumer medical device
for 1/3 of half of the population.
Well, that's right. So 1 in 6 women, and or 1 in 6 people. That's like a billion plus potential customers on the planet. So yeah, that was what jumped out at us. And the other thing was when we started approaching physicians, so physiotherapists and gynecologists and neurologists, what we noticed, they were telling us that the intravaginal pressure, what this was measuring, wasn't actually important.
Right.
Now, the way that the pelvic floor controls continence and leakage is it presses up, basically it clamps off the urethra. So it's the force exerted by these muscles on the urethra which stops the leakage. So what the intravaginal, intra-abdominal pressure that it's measuring is actually an indirect measurement of it. A couple of other smarter, more recent devices use EMG, which is called electromyography, and that's the electrical activity of the muscles. And once again, that's very clever, but it's again an indirect measure of the force exerted by the muscles. We decided to use force-sensitive resistors to measure the pubococcygeus and the puborectalis muscles. They're the two muscles that matter, and that
need to be strengthened through these exercises.
That's exactly right. And as far as we know, we're the only people who've actually done that, and we've got patents pending on that.
So what does it look like? Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. Well, once again, the consumer device.
Yep.
So we designed it to fit inside a sunglass case looking device, which can be charged using micro USB.
Yeah, common standard.
The product itself is extremely small compared to competitors. It is inserted vaginally. There's sensors on the sides and the front there to measure the force.
The force, yeah.
It then transmits the signal to a smartphone app, which is Android or iOS, using Bluetooth. And the app leads the woman through her exercise program. It gives her audio-visual feedback, and encouragement. It gives her reminders. And what's really important, what we noticed when we were developing this, was that everyone these days is carrying around basically a
pocket
supercomputer,
yeah.
a supercomputer in their pockets with a fantastic screen and also network connectivity.
Yeah.
So the information doesn't need to sit on the phone. You can upload it to the cloud, have a big database there, you can analyse it, you can share the information with the patient's clinician should they choose to. And what that does is it gives the extra motivation, because you've got your clinician, big brother, sitting on your shoulder. So if
wanting to see some results.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the clinician, if they don't see the results,
they can contact
call you up and say, hey,
how's it going?
How's it going?
Yeah.
You want to come in and have a chat. What's really important, this is why some of the clinicians absolutely love it, is that it allows them, if the patient's not improving, it gives them the opportunity to bring them in. Now, it might just be that they're not doing their exercises correctly, and about 40% of women think they're doing the exercises correctly, but they're not, because there's no visual cues as to whether they're doing it right.
Before the Pericoach.
Well, that's right. So they get it in. It might be a case of just teaching them how to do the exercises correctly and sending them away. But if they are doing the exercises correctly, what it allows them to do is say, well, hang on, it's not the pelvic floor muscle strength that's causing this incontinence, and it allows them to look for other pathologies. So that's really important to the clinicians and the well-being of the patient. And
of course, having this guided experience through the app, through what you can see on the screen, that's why you've called it the coach, the Pericoach.
That's right.
It's coaching.
It's encouragement, and a lot of people, myself included, I wouldn't do exercise unless I had someone breathing down my neck to do it.
Yeah. Well, someone who needs to exercise a lot more, and I probably need an exercise coach. Something I can put over my entire body and just go. But that's your next product. So how long did it take to create? I mean, you gave us a bit about the idea behind it, but what was the process involved in creating prototypes, etc.?
Well, we licensed the technology from the inventor back in 2008, and it was a very slow burn to start with. We actually had a university student for the first year develop a working prototype, and that was an excellent product actually. We then took the idea to local physiotherapists in Brisbane and showed them the idea, because what we needed to do is get the right shape and size to suit most women. So this is a one size fits most, not a one size fits all size product. When we asked the clinicians what they wanted to see, we were basically met with blank looks, because up until that point, the idea of being able to know what the patients were doing once they'd left the clinic was just completely foreign to them. So there was a lot of work there to actually say, well, here's what we can provide. What do you think? So once they started to see that potential, the body language from them went from like this, very sceptical at the start of meetings and so on, to
being much more open,
much more animated. So the response we've had from clinicians has been just incredible the whole way through. So we've been to Continence Foundation of Australian conferences, we've been to international conferences, and we have people lined up 3 deep wanting to know about the device.
And so when you said the inventor, was that the guy that your chairman spoke to, or was that someone who didn't? Yeah. So he'd already kind of patented the idea or laid claim to it?
He got it to a certain stage, and we paid him for his knowledge.
And clearly he must be overjoyed at how far it's come since that time.
I would believe so.
Yeah. So now, what does it cost to buy? I mean, it's only just launched, and then how long are women expected to use it? Is it a few months? Is it a few years? Is it the rest of their lives? What's the story there?
Our introductory pricing is $298, and that includes the device as well as data management. We expect that women would probably, and it depends, how long are they going to use it? It depends question. It depends on the severity of their condition to start with, and their anatomy, and as well as how often they choose to exercise. So if a patient's exercising regularly, say every couple of days, they should start seeing improvement in a couple of weeks if they're exercising correctly. Within a few months, they may even decide for themselves that they're actually fixed, and there's no objective measure of such and such a force is continent. It's up to the woman herself to decide whether she's happy or not.
But then once she's got it, she could use it any time she wanted to.
That's right. She might put it in the drawer for a while, but like any muscle, if you don't exercise it, it will get weaker.
Sure.
So what we're trying to do is develop a habit.
Yes.
And so the woman can she might be quite happy just doing her pelvic floor exercises by herself from that point on. But if she does need that motivation I spoke of, then she can resume where she left off.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about this product. It's not about we're not like a defibrillator or anything trying to save lives. All we're trying to do is improve the quality of life for women by a little bit. And I like to think of the happiness that we're trying to generate as like a compound interest thing. You only need to make everybody's life, all these women's life a little bit happier each day, and it grows. So, a lot of women, it doesn't affect them that much. It's just a couple of drops. But there were women in our focus groups who don't go to movies. They don't get on planes. They don't go to parties because there's always a line up at the toilet. They wear black every day. It affects their life. We're trying to just make them a bit happier and be able to go to do those things again. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, it sounds like extremely worthwhile. I mean, I know my mother has had had a hysterectomy, and then she had something else that was I'm forgetting the medical term for it, but she needed another operation, and she was told to do these sort of exercises, and you do them. Well, I suppose she does them. I mean, she's been a nurse all her life, so she knows medical things very well. But I read about this when it came through, and I thought, wow, this would be the perfect thing for mum to be able to use. So, and I'm sure mums around the world and plenty of women would just go, wow, if I only knew about this device, I would buy one and start using it.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Never, yeah, that's right. So, so you mentioned before some of these conferences, people are now 3 deep. You mentioned the change from the clinicians initially from being skeptical to like, wow, this is something we want to get behind. So, what else has, clearly it's going to be a good reaction, but what has been reaction from the public? It's only been on the market for about a month now or so. What's been the reaction from the media? I think it's great, but there's plenty of other media out there. And what's been the reaction from the medical world, Australia and around the world?
Well, the public, we've just released we got iPhone approval, and we were waiting for that to start our campaign.
And that was for the iPhone app.
That's right, for the iPhone app. So we waited for that to start a public relations campaign. We've been doing quite a few editorials in blog sites and so on, and just building awareness, firstly, of the product, of the condition, and just trying to make women aware that, hey, it is a massive problem. You're not on your own. There is something you can do about it, and then introduce them to the Pericoach. The click rates we've been having on these articles have been 40 times what the benchmarks are on these websites, and the bounce rates are so low. Like, people are reading the full articles, people are sharing it, and they once you get women talking about this, they want to fix it. It's a serious problem. So, in terms of the medical community, we've had just an unbelievable response. We've had some of the biggest names in continence, from urogynecologists to sports medicine people, joining our clinical advisory boards both here and in the United States. People jumping on and almost fighting over who gets to do the clinical trials, and we're about to start a clinical trial to get the evidence required. So,
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a big step.
Now, one of the things that struck me in the press release was that the Pericoach was made in Australia, and everything seems to be made in China these days. So how did you manage to do that, and where is it being made?
We are making it in Australia, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, because the design isn't finished. So we've got probably about 24 months worth of product development pipeline ahead of us. So
to make like a improved version 2
improvements, and that's right. So there's version 2, version 3, and we'll
and of course
that out over the time.
Version 1 is here now, ready to go. It's working. But as with any product, like future iPhone, more iPhone, everything gets a version 2 or version 3, and it gets improved.
Well, that's right. There'll be usability improvements. There'll be aesthetic improvements, obviously,
but that's not to dissuade anybody from going out there and using version 1 straight away.
You can wait and be incontinent for another 6 months,
if
you like, but we suggest you go out and cure yourself as soon as possible. But there's also, we want to add a diagnostic capability to it, and also data analysis. So some things that we do that no one else does is we get all the data and we're aggregating it in the cloud. We want to be able to analyse that and then share that with clinicians. So in terms of product development pipeline, we've got new ideas that come from our engineers, of course, the public, the users, but unlike potential competitors, we also have new ideas that come from the data and new ideas that come from the clinicians who we've spent a lot of time getting engaged and on board. So I think those two things, the data and the clinicians, is why we're going to dominate this field.
And presumably, because it's a big concern these days, the data will be anonymized in the cloud.
Of course, it's despite the fact that it's just pelvic floor exercise, it's still health records.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful of that. We manufacture the device the electronics are made in Melbourne, and the device is assembled and the plastics are put together here in Sydney. We do that because apart from the fact that the design is still
evolving,
in flux, we do that because it's not a particularly labour-intensive device to manufacture. So going to somewhere where there's cheaper labour isn't going to get us that much, but it is going to cost us in terms of the overheads of quality assurance. And this is a medical device, so quality really does matter.
Really counts, yeah. Well, it's great to see it being made here, and I'm sure the people who are making it are very happy that it's being made here and not overseas. So, given the fact we were just talking about China, I mean, how long do you think before your competitors will try and start cloning it in the US or China or elsewhere? You must have a head start on some of these guys.
We do. The perineometer devices have been around for, what's it now, 50, 60 years.
Yep.
So what sets us apart is a couple of things. It's the patents, I guess, on the particular way we measure the activity, but also there's the fact that we've spent a lot of time building up that clinician rapport and building a story with them. But there's also the barrier to entry. That this is a medical device. So in Australia and Europe and Canada and a lot of countries around the world, it's a Class 1 medical device, and that's by law in those countries. Yeah. And in the US, it's actually a Class 2 medical device. So Code of Federal Regulations 21 Part 8841.425 says any device that does this is a perineometer, it's Class 2, and you've got to do a 510K. That's an application to clear it. Now that requires you to go through biocompatibility tests to make sure that it's not going to be toxic, the material's not going to be toxic to the woman,
reactions
or reactions to the vaginal mucosal membrane. You also got to make sure that it's electrically safe and not going to interfere with things, and so you've got to be able to prove that. So whilst they could probably knock it off, the actual hardware, being able to sell it legally is
different kettle of fish.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
and look, that's the same with most companies with a product. They've put a lot of time and money and investment in, and people can try, but normally the people who started it off are the ones who have that first mover advantage, and they succeed. So what now? Let's talk about some of the what other sort of app-connected medical devices are you sort of thinking of creating without necessarily giving any secrets away?
Look, the device itself is a battery, some sensors, and a Bluetooth chip in an enclosure. It sends that information to an app and up to a cloud, and then shares it with clinicians. There is thousands of different possibilities there, but we want to concentrate for the moment on pelvic floor health. So we've got a good couple of years worth of product pipeline there that we can concentrate on, and that's where we're working.
Sure. Well, in that case, I mean, I had another question around that. What other app-connected medical devices are out there that you know of and are impressed by? I mean, one thing I remember hearing 2 or 3 years ago was about a thing called accessories, and that was an accessory with an app, which is what the Pericoach is, except this is a very, very personal one. Now, one of the ones that this company had, I mean, they had the remote control cars and the drones and all sorts of things, but one of the things they had at the time, and still do, was an app-connected toothbrush that got you to brush your teeth for a certain amount of time and gathered all the data. And I think it was Oral-B or Braun, they're coming out with something very soon as well, or they've just launched it. But being a doctor yourself, you must have heard of other devices, so what's caught your eye?
Well, I'm not actually a doctor, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
Look, my favourite app-connected device is the AliveCore ECG monitor, and this is absolutely fantastic. All you do is you put it against your smartphone, and using near-field communications, it basically takes your ECG, and I haven't seen it in action yet because I haven't actually had an atrial fibrillation episode, but it can actually diagnose AF in patients. So that's absolutely fantastic. I guess other non-app medical devices that are connected to the cloud. I think Simavita's got some incontinence pads for retirement homes and so on, which allows patient management of incontinence with dignity. It allows them to find the patients, know when they're going to go and avoid each event, and actually take them to the toilet without going through the whole process of that sort of thing. And I think that's absolutely fantastic, improving quality of life. And ResMed's got a new. I used to work for ResMed, and they've got a new bedside table sleep monitor, and I think that looks pretty cool too.
Sure, and I was trying the Alive Call before. I mean, I've used the cardio app, and I've used the app on the Samsung Galaxy where you put your finger on the little reader and you see your heartbeat. But this one, the one you have, looked a lot more accurate, which is pretty incredible.
Well, that's the thing. This one's actually a Class 2 medical device,
right.
so that has to go through all the clearances as well. So,
incredible. And will the Pericoach, I mean, currently the Pericoach data is being stored in the app, the Pericoach app, and it's going to go into your own cloud. But will you ever incorporate it into Apple Health or Samsung's S Health? Google has a thing called Google Fit. I'm sure Windows Phone has its own health thing. And just on that same vein, there's always these rumours that Apple is going to open up its Apple TV to third-party apps beyond the ones that the TV ones it's already allowed. I mean, I can just imagine, in addition to being able to have the exercises on your phone or tablet, you could load the Pericoach app onto your TV. And so if and when Apple allows that, would you port the app to that platform, but also allow it to integrate with Apple's and the other companies' health capturing apps?
Look, it's nice to have, and it's something we'll investigate in the future. But at the moment, we're concentrating on just iOS and just Android, because a lot of the functionality of that data aggregation we already have.
Yeah.
So the next step from that is going to be analysing the data, and we're actually investigating a partnership with a Brisbane-based company called SportsMed, who what they do is they take information from a number of sources, so from the places like the S Health and so on, and they can match it up with our data in order to be able to go further into the analysis of what's going on with the pelvic floor health. So, for example, they'll take general fitness information. So you can imagine if you have a big workout in the gym, and then you go trying to do a pelvic floor exercise session, you're probably a bit too tired to be able to actually get it going. So they take that into account in the overall analysis. Similarly, the medications that a woman might be on at the time, antidepressants, for example, do have an effect on the muscles. Yep. So you can match up that sort of information, and that's a major power that we see the Pericoach having in the next 18 months.
So let's put the crystal ball, the magic hat on. If you have a look 5 or 10 years down the track, we know you've got all sorts of improvements for the next couple of years, but where do you think the whole app-connected medical device market will have evolved to by then?
Look, there's going to be implants, personal area networks. Everything's going to be a lot further advanced, and I do hope that the people like the hardware makers, and also the OS makers, open up and appreciate small companies like Analytica and realise that we're at the cutting edge, and just to make it easier for us. I think one of the big things is going to be the trade-off between the sort of computational power that the hardware actually has, and what needs to be done on a big server, so the big grunt sort of computational power, and what's going to control that is the data upload rates. So that's going to be a nice little balance to see in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
So do you have any final messages, not just for iTWire viewers and readers, but for upcoming Pericoach users and customers, and for the medical community?
Well, the thing is that it's 1 in 6 people is a female suffering from stress urinary incontinence, and it's not just urinary incontinence. It's other pelvic floor issues as well. There's pelvic floor exercise also helps pelvic organ prolapse, and has been known to treat sexual function as well. So that's a pretty good side effect to improve sexual function. Chances are one of your viewers are going to know somebody with who could benefit from the Pericoach. So I suggest they go to pericoach.com, read up about it, talk to their GP, talk to their women's health professional, and do something about it, because it can be treated.
Yeah, and in fact, what you were just saying, pelvic organ prolapse, that was what was happening to my mum.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Is she happy for you to be talking about this?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Mum. But, you know, it's, as you say, it's a problem that 1 in 6 people have. So there shouldn't be a taboo about this, because it's something that, you know, you can finally do something about.
Absolutely.
And I wish you the greatest of success. Thank you very much, Geoff.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers.
Thank you.